Good afternoon. Today I'm going to talk about the idea of the suicide decision, which is one of the key components in the book that I wrote called Working with Suicidal Individuals. There are a number of reasons why people will take their own life. For instance, there can be things like command hallucinations. That is where the person has a hallucination that commands themselves to be suicidal. There are other individuals who are very acting out and spontaneous individuals who can harm themselves, attempt to kill themselves because they're very angry and they just lash out. But in the psychological sense, the truly suicidal individual is the one that has made the suicide decision. This is the person who has, in their early years of life, usually prior to 6 years of age, have gone through a series of life events and made the decision, what we call the early decision, that ending one's life is an option. Ending one's life is a thing which is possible to do. People who haven't made this decision don't have the option. So when they're placed under great stress, the idea or choice of suicide to solve the problems simply doesn't arise, or if it does arise, it's not considered in any serious way. Whereas the person who has made the suicide decision, when they're put under great stress or certain circumstances arise, they will consider suicide. So the person who makes a suicide decision essentially is saying that to difficult circumstances or in problem situations, one of my choices, one of my solutions to that is to end my own life. So that's what we would call, in the psychological sense, a truly suicidal individual. That is the one who's made the suicide decision. There are 7 possible suicide decisions, and as you can see, they are listed here. I won't go into these in great detail. As you can see, there are a number of different possible suicide decisions that a child can make. For instance, number 4, I will get you to kill me. That is, some people can behave in certain ways where others will kill them because they don't see that they can actually go through with the act of planning and the process of suicide, so they behave in such a way to get others to kill them. For instance, the idea of death by cop, where the person behaves in such a threatening manner in front of policemen that they shoot him. Other people can use capital punishment for this means. That is, they'll behave in a way, break certain laws which they know in the location where they live is punishable by death, and they can live out their suicide decision by getting the state to kill them. So, what I'll do now, as on this diagram behind me here, is a way of describing how the decision-making process occurs. You'll see that on the one aspect we have the primary parenting figure, that is usually mother and father, and then we have the young child. As I said, the young child is usually 5 to 6 years of age, or under 6 years of age, and of course a child that young has very malformed or underformed parent and adult ego state. So when the parents relate to it or give it a piece of information, it can only process the information. It can't, in this part of their personality here, the A1, the adult in the child ego state. It can't process it in the grown up adult ego state because it doesn't fully exist yet. So when parents give it information, it has to process it in here, and that's where we can get magical thinking, illogical thinking, and so forth. The child doesn't understand the full context of what's going on because they don't have their adult ego state. For instance, if mummy's angry at the little boy, Johnny may think there's something wrong with him, when in fact just a few minutes before he's seen mother and father have a fight. So the adult person would know that what mother's really angry at is her husband and not me. But the child can't understand that because it doesn't have an adult ego state. the fully formed one here. So the parent will provide it with certain information. For example, say the parent hits the child severely. What we have here is the first part of the decision-making process. That is, the parent, the grown-up, is giving the little professor a piece of information. That is, it's hitting the child. Then something else happens. Once that child has been given that information, the second step in the decision-making process comes from the child, from the little child ego state up to the adult ego state. So now the little professor, or the small adult in the child, has two pieces of information. It has the information coming in, that is, it's being hit, and it also has its own feelings in reaction to that being hit. And those feelings can be a variety of things. For instance, the child may feel sad that it never seems to be able to get everything right. The child may feel angry. It may feel angry at mother for hitting it. So, of course, the child's individual feelings is going to be unique to it. And others, really, like parents, that have very little control over what those feelings, reactions are going to be. But when a child is put in a stressful situation, it's hit, it has its feeling reactions, then this little part is going to make some sort of decision. When you put a child under stress, it has to make some sense of it. It will have to come to some conclusion about what this means. And that is where we have the early decision. That this part down here will make a decision based on these two pieces of information. And then when it makes that decision, the third step in the decision-making process is complete. That is, the child puts the decision in that part of the personality. That is, the child basically stores the decision. And of course, if it's making a suicide decision, that is, if it's making one of those 7 decisions which was illustrated before, then that part goes into here. And it sits there and remains there, usually till the day the person dies. Of course, this will happen many, many times. It's not just one situation usually. Usually it's a number of situations, and the same decision gets reinforced, and the suicide decision simply resides in that part of the personality. So when this person grows up into an adult and they go through life and certain circumstances arise, such as financial ruin or, say, marital collapse, then this part of this decision, which the person doesn't even know is there usually, suddenly becomes operational, and they'll report that they're having things like suicidal urges and they're thinking about killing themselves and so forth, because that decision that was made at 5 years of age suddenly becomes operational in the personality. So that basically sums up the process by which the suicide decision is made, and the unnerving part really, how once the decision is made, it just sits there and waits for circumstances to arise when it becomes operational. So thank you for your time.